Pandemonium reigns.
Yo, family, friends, Pandemonium reigns all up in your ears, in your speakers, in your business. I think I found a new intro. I really like saying that. That's fun.
It's fun. It's fun and it works. And it's true statements.
It does work. I like being in your business. All up in your business.
Pandemonium
It is
reigns.
week 2 of the college football season, and we're here to talk about it. Before we do, make sure you hit like and subscribe. We're doing well on our platforms. We appreciate that. You guys telling your mamas and your daddies about us. Thank you so much. With that said, let's dive into week 2 conversation. Alabama, Texas, the game that we've been talking about basically since Bryce Young avoided that sack, ran down the right sideline, and the Tide kicked a field goal to get out of Austin. We've been waiting for this rematch since that time.
Haven't we?
Yes, it's here. It's Saturday. I believe we've got a late kickoff, a 7 o'clock kickoff. I just had it
Correct.
pulled up, and now
You're correct.
it is gone. So we've got a 7 o'clock kickoff. We've got Alabama -7. We've got an over-under of 54. Is that right?
That is correct on ESPN.
Man, what are your initial thoughts on this thing, man?
Oh, man. I am so conflicted about this game. I don't take much from either opponent's week 1 matchup other than Milroe probably looked a little bit better than I thought he might in week 1. You know, opponent notwithstanding being MTSU. He looked a little bit better than I probably expected. But I just don't know, man. I don't have a great feel for this. If I'm betting it, I'm hesitant to bet Alabama by the touchdown. I could certainly see them winning by more because it's what they've done for so many years. But I'm hesitant if I'm betting this game. I guess if I have a feeling about it, I'm thinking about a close game where Texas maybe just runs out of gas on the road, or Alabama really starts to flex its muscles over the course of the full 4 quarters at home at night. I don't know if you've seen all of the petty factors of this game. Are you up to speed on this?
No, I'm not. Fill me in.
Okay, well, if you'll recall last year, Texas was not very kind with. They weren't a great host. They gave Alabama, the minimum amount of seats that you have to give it a visiting fan base. It was upper deck. The band didn't travel for Alabama, the $1 Million Band. A lot of pettiness. There was complaints about the locker room being as hot as it was outside on the field. And Alabama complained about that, as far as how their game went, and they're returning the favor. Texas is getting, again, the minimal amount. Only upper deck visiting seats, I believe, are being offered. No seats for the band. Full pettiness bowl here. I'm here for that. I hope it leads to some chippy situations and just maximum chippiness on the field without anything getting too out of hand. I'm here for it, but I don't have a great feel for what's going to happen. I do think it's a close game where Texas just runs out of gas there towards the end.
I can see why you would say that. However, this is one of the better Texas rosters that we've had on paper in many years, right?
It is.
People say, well, Texas has always recruited well. Not exactly. Not until recently, actually. They've got the star power on offense to do it, right? Quinn Ewers, Worthy, Whittington, and the
Mitchell.
last time we talked about Texas, we missed Mitchell. Yeah. So they've got the firepower to do it. Alabama is one of those teams. I think if you're going to beat them, it's a lot like Georgia. You're going to have to do it on the edge, right?
Yeah.
You're going to have to win some one-on-one battles. You're going to have to, beat them deep. So they've got the formula. Can they execute the formula? I think what I'm way more excited about is, despite the outcome, what's the narrative coming out of this game and Texas and the SEC? Texas. Okay, so let's say that Alabama just either wins close or curb stomps them. Well, you know what we're going to hear? Texas doesn't belong in this conference. They need to go back where they've come from. They're never going to arrive yet, which I think is foolishness. All right.
Yeah.
Not real sure how joining this conference is going to affect them in the recruiting department, but I don't think it's going to get worse. I think it can only get better. If Texas comes in and either wipes the floor or beats, Alabama by a field goal, whatever, I think the narrative is the same. Hey, here's your welcome, Matt. Come on in, right?
It's that, and then it's the end of Saban is what it's going to be if that happens. That's going to be your narrative. Your narrative.
As like the dynasty is over?
Yeah. Not like he's gone or anything like that, but that their run is over. That's what the media will push, I think, if that scenario plays out and Texas comes in and really puts it on them. You know what I mean? Or just keeps them arm's length the entire game. They lead throughout. I think you'll hear about Saban as much as you'll hear about welcome to the SEC. They really do belong. Stuff like that.
Well, that's fair enough. Fair enough. Well, we're going to have to get into the prediction point at some point. Over under is 54. Alabama -7. What do you got?
Give me the under. I'm going to take the under. I'm worried about Texas in that environment for some reason. You know, I know they play in some raucous environments, but I think it will be next level being a night game in Tuscaloosa. I'm a little worried for them. Alabama, again, Milroe's going to have to show me that he can really do it. What if around halftime or third quarter, Buckner or Ty Simpson is knocking on the door and they need to make a change? That would not be encouraging for me for Alabama. So I'm going to take the under in this game. I'm going to trust the defenses a little bit more, and I'm going to go with Texas to cover, Alabama to win.
I like that a lot. The only place that I'm going to differ is I'm going to take the over.
Okay.
Because my heart wants a shootout so bad.
I would love it.
I want 9 overtimes. I don't care if it's the 2-point play. I don't care. I want 100 points and just 2-point conversions over and over and over again. I think we have the potential for that kind of game. The barn burner trading blows back and forth. So I'm going to take the over. I mean, if they both go 35 apiece, that's over. If they go, if they go
28 apiece,
if they go 28 apiece, that'll do it. So I'm going to take the over. I'm going to agree with you that Alabama wins, Texas covers in that department. I'm going to say something like a 3 to 4 point loss for Texas. And it goes back to our conversation when we originally covered Texas. Because of the brand, because of the logo, can't believe I'm doing this, until they show me otherwise, that you're capable of doing it, that you're capable of knocking off, Goliath, I'm not going to bet you to do it. So give me the over. Alabama wins, Texas covers.
I like it.
Nebraska travels to Colorado. And for the casual listeners or the people under 25, y'all, this was once a heated, bitter rivalry, but conference realignment ruined that for us, which it's going to continue to do going forward. With that said, the national conversation now, after Colorado comes off of that close win over upsetting TCU, who's now ranked the number 22 Colorado Buffaloes.
Yeah.
This conversation's totally different. You might as well take our first time we covered this Colorado team and just throw it away. It means nothing.
Toss it.
Delete the episode, right? It's done because what's the who was the old Vikings coach who gave the famous line? They are who we thought they were.
Oh,
well, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
They are not who we thought they were.
Not at all.
Not at all. They're going to be entertaining to watch. You made a great point in our phone call earlier. This is probably a team that we just need to cover from here on out. Just keep a close eye on because it's just going to be wild for them going forth. Nebraska had the extremely disappointing yet another close loss to Minnesota. They had winning or the win in their hands, let it go to the Golden Gophers and PJ Fleck, whatever his name is, Sky Uma, row the boat, whatever, all that stuff. Here we are. Let's see if we can find the line here. This is a little low, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Over under is set at 59.5. That's a little high. And then Colorado -3. Hit me with your best shot.
Boy. We are. We're going to have to talk about Colorado, I think, weekly until they give us reason not to at this point, because I still can't get past that game in week 1 down in at TCU.
Yeah.
I'm with you. 59.5 seems high because to me, and I'm not saying they couldn't do it, but it feels like Colorado would have to do the heavy lifting there, man. It really does.
Yes,
after watching
agreed.
Nebraska's offense. Now credit to Nebraska's defense. They held tough until they basically couldn't anymore, and their offense put them in so many bad spots. So perhaps they're better defensively than we thought they were. Perhaps they've got a couple pieces that I liked watching them against Minnesota, rooting for them against Minnesota. But I'm going to go under yet again. I think it's too much heavy lifting for either Mr. Sims at quarterback for Nebraska, who I don't know how he'll keep that job after watching week one, or for Colorado. I just think it's too much heavy lifting one way or the other. I don't like that number. I'm going to go under if I bet that. But my God, I'm going to put my house and my cars and yet again everything I own on Colorado to cover 3 points. I mean,
for sure.
What in the world does Vegas know? Because they also host this game. I mean, 3 points at home is all they're getting after doing what they did.
And the crowd's going to be on fire. The tickets are around $400 for nosebleeds.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to be on fire. The place is going to be jumping, especially if they do. I mean, if they do anything, first drive or whether they could get a defensive stop and the place is going to burn down after last week. That's a number where I'm asking what the world does Vegas know that we may not. But again, I'm going to ride with that. I'm putting a lot of stuff on it that they'll cover well, they have to win by 4, but my gosh, I think they'll win by 21 or 28 at this point. Not really thinking too much about it. So yeah, Nebraska covers, but I think I'll take the under.
If you're Nebraska, I have 2 questions for you.
Colorado covers, my bad.
Somehow that's what I heard. 2 questions for you. First question, what does Nebraska have to do in order to win this game? Second question, how important is it that Colorado steps on Nebraska's throat, for national media purposes, the devastating loss that Nebraska had, the big win that Colorado had? What do you think?
Man, to answer your second question first, I think that's what they're going to try to do. A part of me worries that Colorado could be flying too high, and maybe that's what Vegas is looking at with that only being a 3-point line. I don't think that's in Deion's nature, man. I mean, I don't think that's in his nature at all. I don't think he can get enough success right now to please him alone, and I think his team kind of carries that based on how they looked in week one. We'll see again because it is a long season. What was your first question again?
What's Nebraska's game plan? What do they have to do in order to win this game?
Boy, man, I guess you're going to try to run Sims until his legs fall off.
That's what I was going to say.
Pray and beg that you can win the line of scrimmage with your defense at least, and really pressure Shedeur Sanders, not allow them to get anything going offensively. You better pray and find ways to create some turnovers because momentum will be key. Just like we said, I think, they win the kick, they win the toss, and the place is going to burn down from momentum out there at Colorado. I don't know, man. It's a huge, huge ask for Nebraska at this point. I don't like anything about it.
I totally agree. Run Sims until his legs fall off. Get dynamic in the play calls for him to take off running. It's got to be more than just QB draws, some things that they tried to do against Minnesota. You need to run some counter traps designed for the QB on all kinds of stuff. Get him going. Get him going early. Let him get into a rhythm. Let him get into a feel for the game. I don't like it. I think Colorado, the state, is going to be on fire. Again, we've already referenced the ticket sales. Even if Nebraska can successfully pull that off and run him well, let's say he runs for plus 200. If you just take a glance at the total yards from last week, where Nebraska only put up 295 against Minnesota, and Colorado hung 565 on TCU. I just think at this point, until we see something different out of Nebraska, similar to the Texas conversation, until we see something different, I think this could get ugly for Nebraska. Yeah. I'm going to take the under because, again, I think it's going to be too much to ask Colorado to. I mean, they're going to be carrying what 80%, 90% of the weight, right? To supersede that. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to take the under, and I'm going to take Colorado to do more than cover, just to put it nicely. I think it's way more than 3. So we'll see what Vegas knows there. It's really confusing, but way too low it seems. The only thing that I want to see once this game is over and Colorado fans have stormed the field, just like when Tennessee fans stormed, the field after Tennessee's game-winning field goal over Alabama. Dixieland delight, reign through the ears of the people. I want to hear Gallon of Buffalo after Colorado beats down Nebraska.
Yes, give me that.
Give me Colorado, guys on the Buffalo by 100. The Aggies travel down to South Florida to take on the Hurricanes. We've got a spread set at A&M -4 and an over-under of 51. So many questions. Who are the Aggies? Who are the Hurricanes? Are they improved? What's the Fisher-Petrino relationship? What's the relationship between Cristobal and the rest of Miami? Right? What's going on in these two places? A lot to talk about. Not sure how to build my conversation because I don't know what to build it on.
Yep.
However, two big brands, two big names, big game, 3:30, ABC. We got to talk about it. Where do you think this is going?
Boy. Here's what when I talked about not being sure what Vegas was doing with Colorado -3 hosting Nebraska. This is the type of stuff. This is the juice that Vegas could have done with that game on a smaller scale. They've got Texas A&M -4 here, and I think this game really belongs as like a pick 'em, like dead even. We don't know which way it's going to go because, like you just said, the unknowns about these teams who look good in week one matchups against inferior opponents. But again, what are they going to be coming off of just atrocious years at their respective schools and against their respective schedules last year? Who are they going to be? Mm-hmm. I was looking back at 2022's version of this game in College Station, and I'm not sure how Miami lost it because they had two backs averaging over five per carry. Mm-hmm. They did miss two field goals. They would have still lost that game 17-16 if they made them. So it looks like they would get down the field and not be able to convert those into touchdowns is what it looks like. Can they do that? Because Texas A&M, they're going to have plenty of speed on that defense. They're going to be pretty feisty in the trenches. I think you can cleanly say. So what's that Miami offensive line going to look like? What's Tyler Van Dyke going to look like?
Yeah.
There's been a lot of buzz historically for that guy. Can he live up to it? And can Connor Weigman do the same thing for A&M? Because I don't know if you know this or not, but he actually got some Heisman bump based on their victory last week over Sisters of the Poor and Blind and those people. He actually got some Heisman buzz over that game. Okay, my gut, perhaps I'm being one of those SEC clowns here, but I think my gut tells me that Miami has a little bit more to work out holistically, not just on their offense like we've seen with A&M at times. So my gut tells me that A&M could win this game by a touchdown or two and cover plus win. I think that's what I'm going to ride with because sure, both teams looked bad last year, but I guess at least A&M didn't get smoked at home by MTSU. There weren't things like that happening in College Station, though they did lose to Appalachian State and had several head scratchers. I'm going to ride with the Aggies. Not a ton of confidence at all, if you can't hear that in my voice. And did we say 51? We did. My God, I'm going under on that, dude. I'm sorry. I know that's not much to ask. That's only 2 or 3 touchdowns apiece. Is all, and a field goal here or there is all that's asking for. I can't say that right now. Maybe it's a shootout. I'm hoping for a fun game.
For sure.
Because that is ahead of Tennessee's kickoff. I'll certainly have eyes on it. But I can't go over 51 with what we know about these teams right now.
Completely and totally fair. I'm gonna ride with you on this bus. I'm gonna ride with the Aggies as well, just because if we're comparing this off of week one, which they both played nobodies, and we're basing it off last year, which they were both on the struggle bus, I have to default to paper. I think, who's better on paper, and I really like the Aggie roster. These guys are still loaded, and that's no discredit to Miami and what Cristobal has done in the portal. You referred to them as the portal kings last year, something along those lines.
They are trying to be for sure.
Well, maybe Dabo can take an email or two on that. You mentioned Connor Weigman. He threw 5 scores against the School for the Art and the Blind. Not bad. Kind of hard to do, even if you are playing University of New Mexico.
Yeah.
18 for 23, 236. I have a little bit of questions about their running game. 7 for 51, 6 for 26. The 7 for 51
my next point away from me. Beautiful.
Yeah. I mean, that is a 7.3 yard average. 29 for 134 is barely under 5 per carry, though. And then you have Miami, who played Miami, which might have been because of the Miami, Ohio quarterback providing some locker room material and referring to themselves as the real Miami. Whatever, neither here nor there, I reckon. Tyler Van Dyke, 17 for 22, 201, a touchdown and a pick. I believe it's Henry Parrish Jr. Henry?
Still there, still in college.
Yeah. 9 for 90, 10 yards of carry and a score. I come back to basically everything that I led off with. I'm going to take the Aggies just because a lot of questions on both. I mean, MTSU came into your building and broke the U over their knee.
Oh.
I don't think that seasons necessarily carry over, but stuff like that's hard to get past, and you have to overcome it. If you can beat A&M, I think that might be something to wipe away those tears. You would think home field advantage would be a thing. That's non-existent in Miami.
Got something for you on that too.
Well, the fans only show up when they win. So you beat A&M, you do it soundly, you'll probably have fans start filtering back into Hard Rock Stadium, which is located off-site from, Miami's campus.
Well, you will, because if you buy a ticket to this game, you get a BOGO deal for when they host Georgia Tech later in the year. That's where they're at right now.
That's Vanderbilt stuff.
That's Vanderbilt stuff. Go get your ticket at Barnes & Noble if you're Vanderbilt. And then Miami, they're going to do a BOGO deal for a ticket later on.
My goodness. What was this point that you were going to make?
That was the one for the fans. The other thing is that I'll probably like Miami's rushing attack a little bit better. Henry Parrish still being there. None of the Aggies, the Texas A&M rushing attack being back from last year. So perhaps I like Texas A&M through the air a little bit more, where I like Miami on the ground a little bit more. But I think for that to really have an effect, they'd have to cash in early, be able to put some pressure on Texas A&M on the clock, because these games are just flying by. Mm-hmm. And you're seeing the number of drives deteriorate as Kiffin and Chip Kelly many have complained about. You and I have done it. So I think that's what it would take for Miami, is to really get it going early, put pressure on the clock, make A&M be efficient when they are driving the football. But again, I think they would have to do that in order to really cash in on that.
Agreed. So we're both taking the under of 51, and we're both taking A&M to cover, correct?
We are.
Over under 51, we take the under. A&M covers the -4. Aggies go to Coral Gables and get the win. The Ducks are going to fly south for the autumn and take on the Texas Tech Red Raiders, led by Coach McGuire. And his words from last year reign supreme, that college football runs through Lubbock. No says I, says the Cowboys of Wyoming, as they defeated Texas Tech last week in Cheyenne, Wyoming? Laramie. Wow. Okay. Yeah. See, not familiar with my Midwest. Still, this over-under is it's high. It's high at 69. I think you and I are going to both agree that Oregon's going to do the heavy lifting there.
Yeah, agreed.
It's the spread that gets me. Oregon, -6.5. What do you think about this?
Again, I think Vegas is really tempting here, because people are going to look at, Texas Tech went up to Wyoming for whatever reason. I don't know why that game was played there. Loses a close game. People are going to hammer Oregon. Perhaps the Ducks don't have the same luck flying south to Lubbock as they did hosting Portland's, segment of the Sisters of the Blind and Poor and those folks yet again. That's what Vegas is doing, I think. And I think I like Oregon to cover that. I know I'm playing right into it, even though I just kind of told you what I think is happening. I think I'm playing into it, man. Wyoming gets 35 on Texas Tech, but Oregon can't cover a touchdown spread. I mean, that's tough for me. I know I'm playing into exactly what I just described, but Oregon is the establishment here, which is another issue I have here, is trusting the establishment. That's what I do. That's what gets me killed in betting. And I don't like that Texas Tech has all this buzz coming into the year. All this buzz, if you're dug into the sport. If you're casual, you missed it. You didn't hear it. But people love Coach McGuire. People love what he's done down there.
I love
that program around quite quickly from where they had been. People have loved it. They got so much buzz. They almost erased it in week 1. And I think that you can't afford to start 0-2 if you're those guys. But I'm afraid that they're going to. I'm afraid that Oregon's going to walk down there and cover it. That's just kind of where I'm at for this game.
I got you. I'm going to throw something out there that I hope and pray to the Lord, good God Almighty, that you disagree with. But I think Coach McGuire is actually a guy who could go into Columbia and South Carolina and find success.
Yeah, no, I hate that, but I think he's a dude, man. I really do. I don't know. And maybe they lost guys from last year's team that did kind of surge on us, out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Maybe they lost guys from that squad and they're not quite prepared to replace them. I mean, road games are hard to win, sometimes even when it is at Wyoming. I'm not really making jokes here, not really taking jabs. But I think he's a guy that could win in a lot of those middle tier to lower upper tier places. I mean, Texas Tech has been successful before. Spurrier brought success to Columbia. I mean, I think he could kind of do some of the same things. I like that guy, but my eyebrows are up. I've got a few red flags based on week one here, and I'm afraid. I'm rooting for Texas Tech in this game, not to cover, to win the game. I'd like to see them do it. Give me some chaos, because that Pac-12, I don't want them just walking into the playoff scenarios, and when the polls start coming out in November, I don't want them walking into that unscathed. I really want them to be tested and have a loss here or there to make it tough. But I'm afraid that I'm afraid for their sake here, for the Red Raiders, that they could get kind of smoked here if they're not careful.
I agree with you. I think as far as the Pac-12 goes, I think they're just going to beat up on one another. There's a lot of parity in the Pac-12. Yeah. But what jumps off the page for me statistically for this Texas Tech Oregon game is Texas Tech put up 430 yards of total offense last week. Wow. Oregon, I know they played Portland State. I know they're deaf and blind. They put up 729 yards of offense.
Yeah.
My gosh. And you know where I'm about to go with this, and you know my opinion on Bo Nix. I'm really, really high on Bo Nix. I am. People have got to get out of their mind his time at Auburn. All right. That is over. It is done. The guy put up 381 yards of passing. Again, I know, Portland State. I know. But at some point, again, we got to make predictions. I'm going to take the under. 69 is just real high. I think it's just really, really high. I'm going to take Oregon to win, and I'm going to take Oregon to cover. I think you're probably looking at a 10-point difference here. I think Texas Tech bounces back in a sense that, they kind of go toe-to-toe. They jab for jab. Butch Jones would call it a moral victory. What you're going to see out of Texas Tech is them bouncing back. I know it's going to come in the form of a loss, but you'll see fight out of these guys. I'm high on Joey McGuire, high on Texas Tech Red Raiders. I'm looking forward to the future McGuire. Is he going to stay in Lubbock for the long run? I think he's going to continue to win there. Not off to a great start. I think they're going to bounce back, though. Would love to see him in a blue blood program, a big name brand. Don't want to see it at Florida. That's not the place. That's not what I'm getting at. No. Some other place, not, the conference, let's go with
go West, young man.
Sure. No program comes to mind because I'm like, well, that guy's not leaving. That guy's not leaving. I about went NC State and I was like, well, they're not blue bloods. Anyway, wasting time at this point. So you're taking the over. You're taking the under as well.
I'm going to take the under. I know that's a little risky because Oregon can obviously move the ball up and down the field. We'll see if Texas Tech can prevent that. I think is what it would take. I don't think they're going to contribute much to it in terms of pushing that over. So we're going to see if they can hold Oregon back from doing the heavy lifting there. And
you are taking Texas Tech to win outright, though.
No. Taking Oregon to cover.
Okay. But you want, I got you.
Yeah. Rooting
what
for
you're
Texas
picking
Tech
and what you want is very different. Make sure you're tuning this one. It's going to be 7:00 on Fox. Make sure that your cable provider, unlike Spectrum, will be providing this game for you. You do not want to miss this one. Will the Texas Tech Red Raiders bounce back? What will Bo Nix look like against some school that's not deaf and blind? Can't wait to tune in this one. Got my money on the Ducks.
Same.
All right, before we land this plane today, let's just touch on a few games before we get out of here. I want to briefly touch on Auburn at Cal. Auburn traveling to Cal Berkeley. Auburn sitting at -6.5 for this one. Cal had a convincing win, I believe, as they traveled to North Texas, if I remember that right.
That sounds correct.
What is this world coming to when Power Fives travel to Group Fives? I'm not sure. Did Cal collect a check on that? Did they? Anyways, so
could go either way.
Yeah. So just want to touch on this one real quickly. If you did not see Auburn play last week, yes, I know they played the Minutemen, whatever. They were doing a lot of the little things well, filling gaps, getting push on the offensive line. You know, they ran well. When they got into the red zone, the media kept referring to Robbie Ashford as Red Zone Robbie. So, you know, hey, listen, whatever you got to do to get into the end zone, which is something they couldn't do last year, whatever. They tackled in the open field well. I thought they covered well. I know it's UMass, but some of these things they were not doing against, you know, inferior competition last year. They were just out talenting, you know, some of those schools. And as you show or as you saw, that doesn't always work. I'm going to take Auburn here to cover the 6.5. I'm actually going to take them to win pretty convincingly. I think even despite Auburn's talent deficiencies, I think there's a talent gap. Interested to see Justin Williams, see if he gets any touches for the Cal Golden Bears. Rooting for that kid. You wanted to touch on Utah at Baylor. What you got on this one?
Yeah, a similar trend of Vegas just playing games with us. Utah's only a touchdown, 7.5 point favorite on the road at Baylor, who needs this win like they need their next breath. Losing to Texas State. Texas State's really interesting because they basically did what Colorado did, but you never heard about it because it's not Deion Sanders, it's not Colorado. They exclusively recruited the portal is essentially what they did.
TJ Finley is your quarterback in Texas State.
You'll remember that TJ Finley is your quarterback at Texas State. They actually have an interesting game against UTSA this week, who kind of dropped the ball against Houston. So those are going to be games that are really fun to watch for guys like you and I who just eat the sport up, you know. But again, Texas State beats Baylor. And again, Vegas is hoping to trap us here. It's only 7.5. The spread in favor of Utah looks like no Cam Rising at quarterback. It looks like he'll be out once again as he recovers from that ACL. I don't think that's going to matter if Baylor doesn't get a lot fixed quite quickly because they're a really fundamentally strong team. I don't think the road environment will be too much for them at Baylor. I know that Baylor can be a fun place to watch games, so I'm intrigued to see how it goes. I think I'm going to ride with Utah yet again, stepping right into Vegas's trap. Probably. Don't be surprised if Baylor does cover that, but I think I'm going to ride with Utah because of the things that they did show in week 1 against Florida and how good they look. It doesn't seem to matter that their quarterback is MIA so far this season as he recovers. I'm going to ride with the Utes.
I like it. Notre Dame's going to travel to NC State. Notre Dame is -7.5 point favorites. Ole Miss at Tulane. That is not a pushover. Interested to see that one. Quinshon Judkins will set Guinness Book of World Records with 80 touches over the weekend. It's a full slate. Make sure you don't miss it. I'm interested in Kansas, Illinois. Interested in UNC App State. Excited to watch the Tar Heels going forward. They might have a defense. Iowa State, rivalry game there. Oklahoma State at Arizona State. Wake Forest, Vandy. Just kidding. Nobody cares. I did that. Hey, thank you guys so much for, I need to shut up sometimes. Thank you guys so much for, I just say too many words, for hanging out with us. We love you guys. Always a fun time doing this with you, my guy, my boy, to the very end. I have to do one thing before we hop off here. At the time of this recording, all right, it is our buddy's birthday. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
I'm going to give a public shout out to Colton Brown. Happy birthday, buddy. 31 years old. 31, 17, it's the same thing. Whatever.
Don't look a day over 21, my man. Happy birthday to you.
Colton Brown, happy birthday, my guy. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, listening, letting us tickle your ears. This is Pandemonium Reigns. I'm Dan. He's Mike. God bless. Go Balls.
Yo.
Pandemonium reigns.